Welcome. We'll get started in a few minutes, but just make sure you have probably a couple of blocks or block-like objects that you could use here, and then just a pillow for when we come back down to the floor. Hi, Amy. All right, let's get started. So welcome. And if you're just joining, just have a couple blocks and maybe a pillow just so when we come back down onto the floor. But let's actually start on our backs. It's a Monday, so we'll kind of arrive in the space for really learning and breaking down the sun salutation sequence. So taking your feet into the mat about as wide as the mat, let yourself lay down, knees bent, and then just let the knees knock in. And we'll come into a few rounds of breath just to arrive. Many of us, we're all at home, working or not at the moment still, so you're sort of arriving from one part of your day into the next. So take a couple deep breaths, really filling the lungs in all directions. Maybe you let a nice audible sigh out. And just for a couple more rounds of breath, let the back side of your body become a little heavier. The knees knock together, forming a little bit of a support. Maybe you can release any tension in your forehead, your neck, the back of your head, your shoulders might get heavier into the mat for a few more breaths. And then very gently bring the knees apart and start to let the knees rock a little bit side to side. So we'll get a little movement into our bodies before we start breaking down Sun Salutation B and really pay attention to our alignment. So one thing right now, which I'll be harping on throughout the practice, is pull the navel in toward your spine here. So feel that integration of your front body and the deep core muscles, because that's going to be doing a lot of the work in a lot of the poses that we have in our Sun Salutation B. And come back into center. Let's bring the feet back about hips width distance, and then pull the knees into the chest. Give yourself a squeeze. You might start to rock a little bit side to side. And then take your hands on your knees and start to draw some circles, moving in one direction and then the other when you're ready. And come back to center. Bring the left foot into the mat, knee bent. Extend your right leg to the sky. Right foot flexed. Interlace your hands behind your right thigh. And then press your hands into your thigh into your hands. So you have a little equal and opposite here. If you have very open hamstrings, you're more than welcome to maybe reach up a little bit higher onto the calf, just leave your knee joint alone. And see right now as you're here, if you can still pull the navel to the spine, and then just kind of place your shoulder blades behind your heart a little bit here, so you have a nice, tall, flat spine. Keeping your chin away from your chest. And you're still having your feet hips width distance, even though one foot's in the air, one foot's in the mat. See if you can engage a little bit through this foot that's in the mat and this foot in the air, and think about not moving toward your midline, but energetically, isometrically pulling the legs toward the midline. Feel that engagement. From here, let's cross that right ankle over the left thigh. Take the right hand to the right inner thigh. Give it a little press away for a little modified figure 4 to start. Keep your right foot nice and flexed. And then you might, if it's available, start to pull that left knee in for a fuller figure 4. But if your hips feel really tight right now, then just stay with that nice gentle one. No big deal. Bring the left foot into the mat, right foot into the mat. Just pause for a moment and just observe a little bit here how you feel. A little different on either side, most likely. Right foot into the mat, your feet are still hips width distance. Left foot comes into the chest, interlace behind the left leg, extend long through that leg toward the sky. Flex a lot through the left foot. And again, navel toward your spine. See if you can place the shoulder blades behind your back so that you have that nice extension in the spine and you're not sort of hunching the shoulders at all. Heart's forward. And then your right foot's pressing into the mat, left foot into the air, but imagine you're still drawing your legs toward one another energetically so you feel those muscles turn on. If you need to or want to stretch a little bit more, if you can reach for your calf, you can, but otherwise just stay here. Nice deep, long inhales and exhales. And then bring your left ankle over your right thigh, left hand to your inner left thigh, press away, open through the hip. Keep all that same alignment with the navel, with the shoulder blades, and then you might draw that right knee in towards your chest if it's available. And then release. Just pull both knees in towards your chest and start to rock and roll up your way. Come through a seated position and then just right over onto your hands and knees. And let's come into making sure we have our universal principles of alignment here in our tabletop. So your nice stable table, your toes tucked or untucked. I tend to like mine tucked. And your inner shoulder is lining up with your thumb. So you want your hands underneath your shoulders, but you can take them a little bit wider so your fingers might even start to edge toward the edges of your mat. Index fingers facing forward. There's an outer rotation of your arms, so the fleshy parts of your elbows are coming forward toward the front of your mat. So find that. It's almost like you have two drawers or two doorknobs and you're turning them isometrically in the opposite directions. Belly in towards your spine. Find that navel into the spine. So we don't want to be, really pushing up with our shoulders and the upper shoulder area here. So same thing, when you put those shoulder blades right behind your heart, it helps you kind of keep the heart forward and you can find the long spine. Kidney area, right in the roll in the back here, just fills just a little bit so you have a nice long spine. Toes into the mat, knees underneath your hips. Now, feel your shins pull in towards your midline. Feel that activation of your muscles. Press your heels out just a little bit energetically and feel your inner thighs start to spiral back. And you're like, all I'm doing is in a tabletop and all these muscles are already activating. And that's what we want. So from here, let's just start to find a little cat-cow. So inhale, you can drop your belly Exhale, arch through the spine. Now every time we come back through that center where we have the flat spine, you're still going to find that universal principles of alignment. So your shoulder blades on your back, navel drawing in. A little organic movement here though, so that you can feel some flexion and extension along your spine. Now come back into center, and now just let yourself shift forward and back in your tabletop and feel how that feels. So you're coming beyond your wrist creases. And when we come beyond the wrist creases, eventually we'll bend our elbows at a 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle. Why do I always say 45? And come back, and we'll do that a few times. Inhale forward, exhale, come down halfway, and come back up as you inhale. And just find a little rhythm here to see how that feels. Elbows in by your side, and when you're externally rotating those fleshy parts of your elbows forward, the elbows naturally stay right by your hips. Come down all the way this time. Stretch out nice and long onto your mat. Bring the hands right in by your ribs and press your hands in and then almost drag them back as you push the heart forward. Little baby cobra just to get ourselves warmed up. Keep the elbows in towards your side. Pull the belly in to help bring yourself back up. And let's just come to a child's pose just for a moment. And take a couple of breaths. From here, come back to your tabletop. Find that same alignment. Hands pressing in. Fleshy parts of the elbows come forward. This time tuck your toes, navel in deep. Place the shoulder blades on your back still so that we take this upper C out of the thoracic area. Lift the knees up off the mat, and then send the hips like at a high diagonal back behind you. Straighten through your arms if they're not already. Ears between your biceps. Your knees can be nice and bent here. And at this point, with the knees bent, you should have your chest or your belly kind of onto your thighs. Now, you might be able to start to straighten through your legs a bit. Your belly doesn't have to be on the thighs, but you're still finding that nice, long, straight line of your spine. So we still don't want to have this, C in the upper thoracic. We want to lean the heart kind of down and toward the thighs. Take notice of your feet. Your heels do not have to be down. In fact, it's better to have them up so there's a natural flexion in your foot. Now, energetically pull those shins toward one another, then press your heels out a little bit. Inner spiral your thighs toward the back of your mat. Super active downward facing dog. Now bend through your knees just a little bit here and start to walk your feet towards your hands. Now you can always grab your blocks here if you want them. Actually, everybody, if you have blocks, grab your blocks. We'll have them near the front of the mat. Come up to about hips width distance with your feet. Bring your hands to the blocks. So you can let yourself hang here for a moment. Uttanasana, forward fold. Keep pressing down through the feet. Keep pulling the shins toward one another. Keep spiraling the thighs back. Now pull in your belly button. And when you pull the belly button in, you might find your spine lengthens a little bit more. And you can soften your knees as much as you need to here. Hands on the blocks to give yourself a little lift. Place the shoulder blades behind your heart. From here, we'll come to halfway lift, and by doing that, we'll bend our knees as much as we need to. Hands into the blocks. Remember, blocks are not supporting our weight. They're just there to give us a little lift. Forward fold, Uttanasana. Press into your feet. Pull those legs toward one another energetically as you sweep up, super strong. Maybe you hit your ceiling fan like I do, and bring your hands to heart center. There you are. Just a little bit of warming up, a little sun salutation A reminder. And start to get your body moving a little bit. Take a nice sip of water if you need one. Now, sun salutation B. Before we really get into it, let's come back to our Tadasana, which is your standing pose. And we'll come back to now standing universal principles of alignment. So feet into the mat. You're going to be stacking all the parts of your body from the ground up. We kind of did that on the floor to start. Remember, we started with our hands and our knees. So now from a standing pose, Tadasana, we're doing the same thing. So take your feet into the mat and lean forward and back a few times. Lift your toes up so that you're just on the four corners of your feet. Make sure all four corners are pressing down. So the big toe mound, the little toe mound, and the back two corners of your heel. Now from here, if you're really coming forward, what we tend to do is we kind of lean forward in our bodies. We want to come into our back body. So we're going to stack our hips right over our ankles and our feet. So we don't need to be standing like this. We can stand here, right underneath. So your hip bones are these bony protrusions right here, and that's where you want your ankles, pretty much underneath that. So you can bring your toes back into the mat if you still have them lifted. Pull the belly button in toward the spine again. Now, your shins, remember? We're going to energetically pull the shins toward each other. And you feel all your muscles start to engage as you do that. As you do that, press your heels out a little bit, feel your inner thighs spiral back. So you have these two kind of opposite movements going on. And what happens is that it opens up through your sacrum, makes it much more stable, much more space in there. Now, you got a lot of stuff going on with your legs. Navel towards your belly, towards your spine. So belly is nice and strong here. Kidney area. What I mean by filling your kidney area is that, we're not going to have the banana back, and we're not going to be slouching forward like this either. So just fill it enough so that your tailbone gets a little heavy. Place your shoulders behind your heart. That will open up through your heart area and through your chest. And then just have your chin nice and level. So we don't want to be sticking forward. We don't want to be craning up. Just nice and level. And there you are, nice stacked straight skeleton. We all have differences, and that's okay too. So from here, Tadasana, sweep your arms all the way up. Try to keep those shoulder blades on your back. Come back down through heart center. Now to get into Sun Salutation B, we're going to break it down a little bit, but let's start with Utkatasana. This is chair pose. This is where we really start. So you're just taking the same structure of all these things where you're reaching up to the top of your head, you're pressing down through the legs, the shins are coming in, and you start to bend the knees, and you sit backward. So we're not bending the knees forward, we're bending because we're placing our hips back behind us. So as we place our hips back behind us, the knees generally stack over our ankles. So now you might find you have a little bit of banana back. Are you engaging through your belly? Probably not. We all tend to, release that as we use the legs to bring us back. So when we do that, we want to keep the belly button engaged, shoulders on the back, then use the belly to drive the motion back. Feel your hips start to sink down, legs bend, you're still spiraling the thighs, you're still pulling your shins toward one another, navel towards your spine, you're still feeling the kidney area to find that flat back. And here you are, maybe your arms come up. Now your heart is moving away from your hips, so you're growing long in one way, long in the other. What we tend to see sometimes is kind of, doing this, or like I said, really bowing through your back, but we really want to keep that nice and straight to start. So I know it's torturous, you're using your glutes a lot. Come back up. Use your glutes to help you rise up. Inhale, sweep up again. Let's do that again. Belly button in. As you pull back, the belly's driving that motion. Utkatasana. Press down through the feet. Feel your shins come toward one another. Inner thighs are spiraling down toward the floor here. They're still spiraling back like if you were in Tadasana, but because of where your body is, it's a downward motion. Long in the spine, and then we'll forward fold. Oh, it feels so good, right? Let yourself hang. Soften your knees a little bit, and let your shoulders slunk off your back. So let them kind of fall forward and down, and feel how that feels. And then either tented fingers on the floor or on blocks, just place them again behind your heart and feel how much nicer that feels. Welcome back onto my mat. Let's bring the hands to blocks if you have them. If you don't, you can tent your fingers on the floor. We'll come back to that halfway lift with the knees bent, long flat back. And we're doing this so that we can really pay attention to keeping the shoulders on the back here. Now from here, place your hands down. Let's step back to high plank. Now you can drop your knees down if you want for modified. Always okay. Otherwise, come into Dandasana. Now you're doing the same exact thing you were on the floor when you were standing in Tadasana, except you're just at a different angle. You're just have a different orientation where you're facing the floor and you're using your hands to hold you up. So you're doing all the same things. Belly is in, shins are pointing in toward one another, shoulders on your back. Now from here, let's lift the right foot up off the mat, oh I know. And then try to pull your right knee in towards your chest. Initiate from the belly, stretch it back, bring your right foot down. Left foot up, try not to move anything else. Pull the knee in, and then step it back. If you want, if you're doing modified push-up, you can bring your knees down in between and just bring it up to do that one part. Let's all bring the knees down. Let's send the hips back, come into child's pose. So just to break it down a little bit, when we do that motion of lifting the foot up off the mat and then engaging your core muscles, so you're using your core muscles then to pull your knee in. Your legs pretty much go all the way up and connect into all your deep core muscles. So when you're doing these movements, a lot of times what ends up happening when people are learning the sequence is that there's a lot of sort of just thrusting the body into the parts, into the different poses, rather than engaging through the core, using that muscle to initiate, and then using the leg muscles to drive the bones to where they need to go. So that's what we're attempting to do here, is to bring that awareness to the belly. So come back to your tabletop, and then we'll step back again into high plank. Modified if you want to. Now, once again, let's lift the right toes up and feel that same engagement that you just did. Pull that knee in towards your chest, and then extend it back behind you. You can take a break with the knees down if you need to in between. Left foot comes up. Pull that left knee in, like you're isolating those muscles. Great. This time let's push back into downward facing dog. Give yourself a full body stretch here. And what this is starting to do is prepare you to step forward into a lunge. But before we go there, we're going to walk all the way to the front again. We're going to take a little bit of our lunging from a standing position first. Okay, good. Come to your halfway lift. Remember, shoulders on your back. Bend your knees as much as you need to have a straight, long, flat back. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Press your feet in. Feel the shins engaged toward one another. Thighs spiral back. Belly nice and deep. Sweep all the way up. Come back into Utkatasana. So you're just sitting back, driving that motion with your belly. Hips get heavy. Eventually, you want to try to get these thighs pretty much parallel to the ground. But you know, it's okay if you're not there, just as long as you can see your toes here. And then sweep forward. Forward fold. Now grab your blocks, maybe on the highest setting, maybe on the medium. Come back to your halfway lift. Plant your right foot, and well, before you do that, make sure your feet are hips width distance. So your hips width are going to be your railroad tracks. And when you step back, we're going to step back into a low runner's lunge. You want to make sure you're stepping back with that left foot still in alignment with your hips. So you're still on those railroad tracks, and you don't have your legs sort of stacked one behind the other, because that's not going to make you very stable. So come back to that nice stable alignment. You'll be tall on the back bottom end of your foot. Now with your blocks, you can have them wherever you need them, but we're going to press into our feet. Feel your legs activate again. So even though they're separate from one another, you're still pulling everything toward the midline of the body, and your thighs are still spiraling down or back. From here, bring your hands off the blocks, get a little bit light. Now we want to feel our hips even, so take your hands to your hips. If your right hip's coming forward, see if you can pull it back so it's even with the left. Make sure that your navel is deep towards your spine. And then as we sweep up, it's like we're taking the whole hip girdle underneath and coming up to crescent lunge, Anjaneyasana. And now in our Anjaneyasana, the back leg can be bent, But we want to be stacking all of our vertebrae. Nice, long, tall spine. So again, take notice of building from the floor up. Feet are pressing down, shins are pulling in. Your shins are also pulling this way. So they're pulling in and they're pulling long ways on your mat so that they're active. Thighs spiraling down. Belly nice and deep toward your spine. Fill the kidneys, place the shoulders on the back. Crescent lunge. From here, let's bring the hands down and let's bring the left hand to a block. And you're coming back to this nice runner's lunge. Right knee always stacked over your right heel, either side. We never want this knee coming forward, so if you find that that's happening, just take a longer stance. Left hand into your block, keep this left shoulder open. Right arm will start to rise up, coming into a twist. Now here, you're pulling in through the belly, you're pulling together at the thighs, elongating your spine, and then twisting your left ribs underneath toward the right. And you're making this nice long portal from your right fingers to your left, right down through the earth. This is Pavrita Alanasana, or your twisted crescent. Easy twist, sometimes we say. Let's bring the right hand down onto the block. From here, now here's where you can get a little bit of this motion of the deep core muscles to drive your forward momentum of your legs, okay? So instead of just sort of like springing off this foot forward, be conscious of your pelvic floor muscles, pulling through your belly, use your belly to lift this leg and bring it next to the right. Head can hang, and then come into your halfway lift. Fold, now as we sweep up, we'll sit the hips back, belly in toward your spine, come up, chair pose, Utkatasana. Again, is your belly hanging out right now? You getting that little pooch? Pull that in, fill the kidneys. Feel your shins come toward one another. And then straighten up all the way. And it's like the best thing ever when you can straighten your legs again. Sweep your arms up. Keep the belly in toward your spine. Use the belly to pull the hips back and down. Utkatasana. We'll just stay here for a moment. Bring the hands down toward your blocks. Place those shoulders on your back. Press down through your feet. Feel the shins engage toward one another. Halfway lift. Plant the left foot into the mat. Now remember, you're on your railroad tracks. We'll step the right foot back in track here. Now if I step here, this isn't going to be a wide enough stance for me. Because if I come up, this knee's going to come forward. So I'm going to have to take a longer stance. So just see where you need to be. Your hands would be right by, right framing your foot. I just have them forward just to show you. But you really want your hands right underneath your shoulders here. So get yourself nice and steady. You're going to come to that ball mount of the back foot, soften through that back knee. Press down through the feet. Feel your shins pull toward one another, and then long ways on the mat. Get light on the fingers. Pull the belly button in. Feel a little fill in the kidneys. Place the shoulders on your back. So now you have this nice long spine. Left hip pulls back to square with the right. Now sweep yourself up as you kind of curve those hips under the whole pelvic bowl. And stack your spine. And come back to your breathing. And then bring your hands to frame your foot. We'll bring the right hand onto a block. Move that other block out of the way. Now, same thing here. We don't want to be locking up this elbow. I want to have that same external rotation. And then opening up. Thighs pulling together. Belly is in toward your spine. Spine grows longer so that you can revolve around. Pavrita Alanasana. Pavrita means revolved. And then bring that left hand down, frame your front foot. So let's try to engage through our hip flexor muscles. We have a lot of ligaments in here, and the belly muscles. So instead of doing the spring off, we'll once again engage through your pelvic floor muscles, your mula bandha, engage through the belly, find the strength in the legs, use the belly to step the foot next to the other one. Forward fold. Make sure you have that inner spiral of the thighs back and the shins coming toward one another. Find your halfway lift, shoulders behind the heart, shoulder blades rather. Forward fold. And then as you sweep up, sit back down. So belly pulls in, sends the hips back, Utkatasana. And then come up. How you guys feeling? It's a lot of work. There's a lot of things going on in your body, and it works up a sweat. So when people are like, yoga's just stretching, they haven't taken one of my classes. So before we start to link some of these things together, let's, we'll do the last piece of what's in Ascend Salutation B, and that's Warrior Two. So let's just take a nice wide stance on your mat and just face toward me. And we'll get the alignment down for what we want to be feeling in the body, right? So when we're in these lunges, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's the shins in, the thighs back, the belly deep, the kidneys filled. You know, there's a lot of things. But over time, it becomes second nature. And the more you do it, once you learn, like you know Sun A and you know Sun B, and you're like, oh, but I don't know how to do a yoga practice on my own. You can just do those. Just do them over and over again until you really feel yourself engaging those muscles, so that when you go to a class or you watch another class, you know what you're doing. So from here, let's turn the right toes out. And again, I might have too short of a stance here, right? So if my feet are too close together and I start to bend into my right knee, you can see that my right knee is going over my ankle. So you can just toe heel your left foot back and just take a little wider stance so that you can stack your right knee over your right ankle. So that's what we'll do. We'll come into Warrior Two legs. And it's your front heel to your back arch. Your back foot, it doesn't have, you don't want it spun out away from you. It can be straight, and it can actually be just a little bit turned toward the right, which is the way we're going. Now from here, right sits bone starts to pull away from the left so that we can go a little bit deeper. But what we want is our right knee tracking toward our right pinky toe. So we don't want this caving in. That's not a good thing. So to get there, what happens is that this right leg is going to externally rotate. So you're going to be externally rotating your thigh here. Left back leg internally rotates. So you have this equal opposite thing going on, right? And when you do that, you start to square off a little bit here. You almost imagine this left hip point dragging across the belly to the right. And now when you do that, remember, shins always are coming in toward your midline. So in this case, they're moving in these two different directions, so they're pulling in along the length of your mat. Now we don't want our face going this way, so what we're going to do with the upper half of the body is twist our ribs toward the side. Arms come out to the side, your ears, rather your fingers are kind of about ear height. So you don't have your arms really low, you don't have them really high, but they're sort of right there in the middle. And the idea being this right knee, you kind of want it tracking kind of to the outside of this right arm. Remember the belly, navel in, fill the kidneys, place the shoulders on the back. Now take your hands to your hips for a moment. And stick your hips behind you, like just stick your butt out behind you and see how that feels. Now from here, we're going to scoop the hips underneath, grow a little taller and longer in the spine. Feel that placement. Still feeling that outer rotation, inner rotation, and come back in. Maybe you've gone a little bit deeper into the pose. Remember how strong you are in your legs. Virabhadrasana, warrior pose. So it's a warrior pose. It's strong. It's fiery. Flip your front palm. As you inhale, reverse your warrior. So sweep that right arm up and over. Now, you could look up. If that doesn't feel good on your neck, you can just look straight ahead, or you might just look down at your left foot. This left hand can be loose. It could come behind you. It could come to your hip. Whatever feels good. You can come back up. Warrior Two. Let's bring those right toes in, and let's just take a forward fold in between. So sweep your arms up, and then come through heart center all the way down. Maybe a little bit of a side to side Skandasana. And then bring your hands back to your hips. Soften through your knees a little bit here. Press your heels out. Shins still pulling in, strong in your legs, come all the way back up. So now we'll set up for the other side. So left toes out, left front heel to your back arch. Again, widen your stance as you need to make sure that this left knee is stacked over the ankle. Left knee is tracking toward your pinky toe. So we're not caving that in. Outer rotation of the left leg, inner rotation of the right. Feel the drag of the hip point across the belly. Pull in through the belly, shoulders on your back. Square your ribs off to the front or to the side, facing me. Fingers extend. Remember, feet are pressing down and your shins are pulling in. So feel how strong your legs are. Just doing this is going to build like incredible leg strength. Flip your front palm. As you inhale, reverse your warrior. Nice long stretch in the body, side body. Come back into warrior two. Bring your hands to your hips and bring your toes back to center. And we'll just toe heel all the way back and give yourself a little shake out if you need to. So we're going to start to link some of this together. We don't have a lot of time. So let's come back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach it without the step through first. So, because this is a variation of Sun Salutation B, Surya Namaskar B. And then I'll teach it with the step through, and I'll show you a trick to use with blocks as you're starting to build the core muscles to allow that nice step. Because one thing that does happen when we start stepping from downward facing dog into a lunge is that the hip starts to go out and around to get the foot there. So this is why this is so important, that, you know, moving in these aligned linear ways, is when you do this kind of over and over again, you're not using your belly muscles to help drive that motion forward. You're using your leg muscles only. And really, it's all integrated, obviously, it's all connected. So that can really cause problems in your hip over time. So the idea being that the belly is driving that forward, right? So actually, while you're standing here, just take a moment and just, without using your belly, just bend your knee and see what happens. You see that you're just kind of, you know, you're not really walking here, you're not really doing anything, you're just bending. To propel yourself, to go forward, these muscles need to engage for you to pick the knee up and step it forward, right? So you can't just pick the knee up and step it forward. I mean, you can by using momentum, but to really integrate and to build these muscles and to do it in a way that's integrated and safe and over time won't cause you injury, you're using your belly muscles, picking the knee up, stepping it forward. So we'll get to that after. So let's come to the top of the mat. Feet hips width distance, stacking everything on top of each other, universal principles of alignment, shoulders on your back, shins pulling in, thighs spiraling back, sweep up. Make sure the belly is nice and tight and deep. Belly button starts to drive the hips back as you sit down. Chair pose, Utkatasana. From here, we'll sweep forward. Uttanasana, forward fold. Get your hands onto your blocks. Shoulders roll onto the back as you come up, halfway lift. Soften through your knees so that you have a nice flat back. Now make sure that you are pulling in through your belly button here. Don't let the pooch happen. Now from here, let's step the left foot back. Get yourself on those railroad tracks. Your hands will frame your front foot. Right knee stacked over the right ankle. Get light on the fingers. Ball mount of the back foot. Feel the strength of the legs. Shins in. Sweep up as you curl those, or just kind of swoop those hips underneath. Arms come up. Now what are your legs doing? Are your shins pulling in? Are your thighs spiraling back and down? Are you pulling the right hip back to meet the left so the shins are also going long ways? Feel the kidney area a little bit. And then sweep your arms down. Frame your front foot again. You can use a block or not. I'm just going to keep with the blocks here. Left hand onto your block. Don't ever be afraid to use blocks. It gives you a little more space. Right arm rises. Is your left shoulder caving in? If it is, see if you can rotate it open. Pull the thighs toward one another. Grow longer in the spine so you can twist at the belly. You're still pulling the shins in. You're still pulling the shins long ways so the right hip squares with the left. Bring your right hand back down to the floor of the blocks. Now from here, we're just gonna drop that left heel down. So you have your front heel to back arch. I'm gonna switch sides. When you have your front heel to back arch, you're ready to go into warrior two. So get that set up. Feel your shins engaged toward one another. Belly button in toward the spine. Then use that strength of your legs and your belly to rise yourself up. Warrior two. Now make sure you have a wide enough stance. Outer rotate the front leg. Inner rotate the back leg. Shins toward the center, toward the midline of your body. Belly deep. Kidneys filled. Shoulder blades on your back. Nice elegant chin. And extend your arms out. Come back to your breathing. Flip the front palm. On your next inhale, reverse that warrior. So long through the whole right side body. Try not to collapse in the left, so stay long as long as you can. And then windmill the hands all the way back down. You'll bring that back heel up so you're in a low runner's lunge. You might toe heel the right foot to the side a little bit if you need to. Making sure you're on those railroad tracks. Now from here, place the hands down. We'll move the blocks out of the way here. Step back to high plank. Knees or not, turn those knobs away from each other so that the inner fleshy parts of the elbows are forward. Shift forward, 90-degree angle right by your ribs, chaturanga. Roll the shoulders onto the back. Now here in your cobra of your upward facing, see if you can release your glutes a little bit. Keep pulling your shins in toward one another. Same thing. And then might bend into the knees, tuck the toes. Come back into downward facing dog. And take a couple of breaths. In your downward facing dog, check in with your alignment. Start from the floor up. Are your hands nice and spread and pressing into the mat? The fleshy parts of your elbows coming forward. Are your shins pulling towards your midline, your inner thighs spiraling back? Is your belly deep to the spine, the kidney area filled, shoulder blades on your back? Now come up to the ball mounds of your feet. If you practice the jump, you can. I'm not going to teach that tonight, but we'll just start to walk the feet one at a time. Come all the way to the front. I'm just going to switch sides so that I'm in the right orientation for the left side. Bring the hands to blocks, find a halfway lift, shoulders on your back. I forget to do it all the time too. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Now, remember, press down, feel your shins pull in, belly is in. You're gonna sit the hips back, so you're sitting right into that chair. It's like someone's pulling a chair up from underneath you. And then come all the way up. You sweating? I'm sweating. Sweep your arms up high and sit back down. Belly pulls in, sends the hips back, shins pull to the midline, forward fold. Bring the hands underneath your shoulders, find the blocks, find your halfway lift. As you exhale, plant your hands on blocks or the floor. Step back with your right foot. So you're framing your left foot. Make sure you're on railroad tracks. Feet press down, shins pull in, shins pull long on the mat. Find that sweep up, pull the belly button in, fill the kidneys, place the shoulders on the back. Feel the inner thigh spiral. And then float the hands down. Right hand comes to the floor or block. Feel that open external rotation. Left arm rises. You're still super strong in your legs here, so check in, make sure you are. It's easy to dump your weight into this right hand, but see if you can just lift it up. You don't want to be dumping your weight there. Left hand comes down, frame your front foot. From here, place the right foot down now, so front heel, back arch. Feel the legs engage again if you've released them at all. Shins pull toward one another, belly comes in toward the spine. Come all the way up, warrior two. Inner rotation of the back leg, outer rotation of the front. Stack the left hip over the left ankle. Extend long through the arms. Let's do that thing again. Bring the hands to the hips. Stick the hips out and then sweep them back underneath. Belly deep. extend long. Make sure to square your ribs back off to the side. So the lower body's doing a little bit of like twist, upper body nice and parallel with your side of your mat. Reverse your front palm, inhale, sweep back. Exhale, we'll come all the way down, frame the front foot, move the blocks, ball mound of the back foot, place the hands down, step back, option. The push-up's always optional, so you could just go to downward facing dog, you could drop the knees, come forward, all the way down. Loop your shoulder blades on the back, come up into your cobra, or if you practice upward facing, that's when you press into the tops of the feet. Same thing though, we're not gonna let these shoulders come forward, we're not gonna sort of hang, we have our elbows a little bent, and we have nice structure here. Pull the belly button in, and this time let's meet in child's pose. Now take a couple of breaths in child's pose. Just check the time. Time flies. And we'll do that sequence again. That is Sun Salutation B without the step through. We're going to do it again. We're going to not breathe as much for as long of a time in each of the poses that make up the sequence so that we can do a little of the stepping through from downward facing dog. And that's a little bit more of, it's kind of advancing on that sequence. And yeah, and then we'll do we'll come back down to the ground and do some shavasana. So let's meet in downward facing dog when you have enough of child's pose. Bring the hips high, soften through the knees, and then walk your feet towards your hands. We'll come to halfway lift, and have your blocks handy if you have them. Forward fold, and now as you inhale, sit back down, chair pose, sweep up, chair pose just for a breath, and come all the way back up. So, all of the sequences, are like, they're variations of the same stuff. So you go to a class and someone's doing some, fancy other stuff. A lot of times they're just kind of embellishing on pretty basic sequences. We all do it. All of us teachers do it. So you might see a class that is a little more, maybe a little bit more advancing, and you start doing the step throughs. So sweep your arms up and sit back down, chair pose, and then we'll forward fold. Bring the hands to your blocks. And then plant the hands, we'll step back, high plank. So here's where we have a little more variation. Now knees up or down, doesn't matter, you'll shift forward, come down, chaturanga. Shoulders come on the back, come up into your cobra, keep a little bit of bend in those elbows. Press your heart forward, pull the belly button in, release your glutes, pull the shins in. Tuck your toes or come through tabletop, meeting in downward facing dog. Now from here, what I want you guys to do in your downward dog, just bring your knees down and then bring the blocks in the lowest setting right underneath your hands and come back to downward facing dog. So now you have a little lift. Keep a little softness in your knees and raise your right leg to the sky. So when your right leg is high, we don't want to be letting the hip come out. We want to keep that nice and square. And now do the same thing we did with those planks. Pull the knee in towards your chest. Feel the belly button, the belly muscles engage. Press the knee high, press the leg high. Pull the knee in. You have lots of space here. Remember your shoulders on your back. And now this time, really dome through the back, okay? So your shoulders might come off a little bit because you're doming. And then try to step that foot through without too much of a struggle to the side. It's okay. You're learning, and over time, the more you practice, the more space you have. So the idea, we'll step back again. The idea when you do this is that, you can just watch if you want right here, When your knee is coming in, you dome in the back, and it's not just that you're stepping forward, but it's like you're stepping up and over something to bring that foot forward. And that comes from the belly muscles. So it's not so much just, propelling the leg forward and, kicking something out of the way. And if you're doing that, you should be using these muscles as well. So let's try the other side. Left leg to the sky. And pull the left knee in this time toward your nose or toward your chest. And exhale high. Left knee in. Really dome your back this time. So you have like that cat spine. And then come back, shoulders come back onto the back. And then dome up, cat spine. You can find a little momentum here. Place that left foot forward. So again, then you might have to adjust so you're on those railroad tracks. Step back. Take the left leg high again. Dome through the back. Find a little momentum. Step the left foot forward. So that can really start to help you using blocks like that and just practicing that drill for the step through. So let's come back to the right foot. You can use blocks here or not. You'll come into downward facing dog. Right leg high. Pull the knee in, step it through. Now you're in low runner's lunge. If you have blocks, your hands are still under the blocks. Make sure you're all set up. Press down, shins in, sweep up, crescent lunge. Exhale, bring the hands down. Hand into the block or the floor, left hand rather. Bring that right arm up. Pull the thighs toward one another. Exhale, frame the front foot. Inhale, drop the back heel. Take a breath, inhale as you sweep up. Warrior two. Take feel of your alignment. Let me just switch sides. Front leg, outer rotate. Back leg, inner rotate. Belly to your spine. Fill the kidneys. Re-square yourself off. Virabhadrasana 2. Reverse your front palm. Sweep up. Reverse. Exhale, windmill down with the arms. Frame the front foot, come up on the back ball mound of the foot. Step back, high plank. Option to bring the knees down or not. Shift forward, come down, chaturanga. Shoulders onto the back, come through your cobra. Remember, release your glutes a little bit here. Pull the shins in, tuck the toes, and then maybe you come back into downward facing dog. You can always move through your tabletop. Left leg rises. Left knee towards your nose, step it through. If you have the blocks, you might have more space. It's great, they're great for that. Get yourself set up, shins in, feet strong, inner thighs spiraling, navel to your spine, fill your kidneys, shoulders on your back. On your next exhale, frame your front foot, right hand into the floor blocks. Inhale up, bring that left arm to the sky. Outer rotate that right shoulder. Keep growing long in the spine to twist at the belly. Your next exhale, bring the hand down. Inhale, place that right foot down, sweep up, warrior two. Of course, now I'm facing the wrong way, so you guys can't see me. Come into your warrior two. Shins toward the midline. Outer rotate the front, inner rotate the back. Super strong. Square your ribs off. Navel deep. Flip your front palm. Inhale, reverse. Exhale. Sweep down. Frame the front foot. Ball mound of the back foot. Step back. High plank. Optional. Last chaturanga. Tuck your toes. Come into downward facing dog. Make sure you still have all your principles of alignment going. Come up high in the ball mound. Keep the hips high, knees soft. Walk your feet towards your hands. Maybe your hands come to blocks, or maybe they just tent on the floor. Find a halfway lift, shoulders on your back. Exhale, forward fold. Now press into the feet, shins toward the midline. Pull the belly button in, sweep up, chair pose. And then bring the hands to heart center. So there's your full sun B with the step through. And when we're in chair pose, if it's really uncomfortable for your shoulders to have your ears between your biceps, you know, you don't want your hands kind of like coming out here, really want this to happen. But if that doesn't feel good, just bring your hands to heart center so you can practice having your shoulder blades on your back. So let's come down to the floor. Let's see what time it is. And I want to give you guys at least a few minutes of Shavasana. So pull your knees into your chest, lots of good work. A little rock side to side. Let's bring the feet into the mat and your arms come out kind of just gentle. Knees about hips width distance, feet hips width distance. And then just press into your feet and bring your hips up off the mat, just a couple inches. Pull in through the belly, but let the glutes release by about half here, so really gentle bridge. You can feel as you're growing a little longer in your femur, so your knees kind of pressing away, chin and chest have a little space between them. And then come all the way back down. Let's bring the soles of the feet together, knees wide, Supta Baddha Konasana, and take a few rounds of breath here. And just fill and empty the lungs. Maybe you come into just a place of inquiry and observation in your body. See how you feel, checking in with yourself, taking that time. Let's bend the knees back up, feet about hips width distance. Actually, take your feet as wide as the mat. Lift your knees. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my vocal abilities. Bring your hips up over to the left about 2 inches and back down. And then let your knees fall over to the right for a nice spinal twist. And if you keep the hips, if you keep the knees part, gets into the hips a little bit more here. I guess I have a case of the Mondays. And then let's come back to center, come back into center neutral. And lift the hips up and over to the right a few inches, and then drop the knees over to the left. Come back to center, and maybe if you have a pillow that you grabbed, you can bring that underneath your knees and just let yourself spread out all the way for your Shavasana. Letting the shoulder blades relax into the mat, a little bit heavier in the back side of the body. Let the toes fall out to the sides. And you can release now through your core, and just all those muscles that I was telling you to engage throughout your vinyasa practice. When we come into the meditation and we come into our final rest, we can use the muscles to get us there and then let them let go. And as you become heavier in the back side of the body, you might become a little bit lighter and more expansive on the front, so that you can feel a sense of neutral buoyancy as you float into Shavasana. bring a little bit of awareness back to your body by taking a deeper breath in and then a long breath out. You might start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Gently inviting a full body stretch into your body. And rolling over to your right side, letting your low back release and closing out one cycle and coming into the next. Make your way up to a comfortable seat. And we'll just bring the hands into Anjali Mudra, heart center. Stacking shoulders over hips to find that tall spine, rooting down. Place the shoulder blades behind the heart so that your heart space is open and that your spine is supported. Even in our sitting position, we are still practicing the universal principles of alignment. We'll bring the thumb knuckles to the third eye. Elbows come wider, lean back, show the heart to the sky. And we recognize the light within one another. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me for this workshop. I'll archive it on Facebook and probably put it up on my YouTube channel. You can always get in touch if you have any questions. And let's see, Wednesday on this channel, I'll be doing a reset and de-stress at noon. We'll do some chill stuff to kind of get ourselves through the day. And then Thursday on the Moon and the Mat Facebook Live, I'll be doing Lunar Flow. So hope to see you guys soon and have a wonderful, Jenny Lee, you're welcome. Have a wonderful Monday evening, or in Jenny Lee's case, she's in Japan, have a lovely day. Oh, you're welcome, Cam. I'll see you guys soon.